Hello and welcome to your monthly Abyss and Imaginarium Theater review. As always, I'm Leo, and we are gonna be taking a look at the 5.6 Abyss and Imaginarium Theater, or the May 2025 Abyss and Imaginarium Theater. How time has passed. It's almost been like, what, a whole last year since Imaginarium Theater came out, so that's very interesting how time has passed, even though Imaginarium Theater has not improved. Anyways, last patch/month, we had a very annoying Abyss catering to Escoffier who had not even released yet, with one of the most annoying 12-1 floors with Electrolector and Seahorse boss. While there were a few teams to try out against that combo, that did not solve how excruciating it was to actually deal with the chamber. Now though, Escoffier is still in the banners, but with the upcoming Kinich/Raiden and Skirk, the Abyss has been adjusted to an interesting but very specific counter combo of enemies. It was not really fun to do this Abyss without the teams they want you to use, but we are gonna have to take a closer look at the Abyss to see why that holds true. Always starting with floor 11. 11-1 begins with a monolith defense of very easy difficulty. The first half is just a few waves of Pyro and Hydro Slimes, followed by a second half of 2 Natlan Automatons. Both halves are very easy. The Slimes barely manage to get to the monolith to damage it, and the Automatons should just aggro their attacks on you, with only a giant laser attack being the only fear for the monolith, even though it can miss it and it doesn't instantly melt the monolith's HP. 11-2 then begins with 2 Kairagis followed by an Eremite Spirit Spawner Crocodile version. Very simple enemies that on floor 11, even with the Kairagis gaining HP back if you don't kill them together, should not be a problem, save with the Eremite having some damage reduction when his spirit is out, and the spirit doesn't have a lot of HP floor 11, so he will get chunked down very easily. And for the second half, we do have a bit of a doozy. Even on floor 11 they want to shield Kinich massively, which is insane, but we have an Abyss creature that needs multiple hits from abilities to break its shield in order to be damaged, and of course Night Soul damage is more effective. Wow, we are seriously starting the shilling for banner units this much in floor 11, and after the Abyss creature it's just a simple Ruin Drake not flying. Well, thanks to this being 11-2, you do have the extra time to take care of these enemies, so believe it or not, it's not that bad. And to finish off with 11-3, wow, they put an enemy and boss chamber here. What is happening? I thought the power creep allegations were saved for floor 12, but to see it in floor 11 is very, very interesting. Now, new players, if you pull on the new units, you should be fine since they are busted compared to older units, but still, this is very interesting to see in floor 11. But that is on the second half. For the first half, we just have 3 waves of Fontaine mechas, 3 simple ones at first, followed by the Rocket Launcher one, and ending with a Construction one. And now the second half starts with a Hydro Wayob followed by Mangu Kinky. This is insane. Both of these are very time wasting for non-experienced players, and the Wayob is honestly the cherry on top for the Kinich ceiling, since it works exactly the same like the Abyss creatures with energy draining on top of that. And as for Kinky, his 10-second spawn animation is insane that they still don't make him skip it and just spawn there, and of course he has his second phase transition time and he can dash around to dodge stuff. Now, thankfully, Kinky is a very early boss, so his HP is very low compared to other bosses that could be here, so even with the time wasting, he goes down pretty quickly, but I can easily see newer players struggling a bit for a few seconds, missing the timer, and even older players getting caught off guard and missing the time by like a second if you're just casually strolling through floor 11 and are not paying any attention to the timer. And that is floor 11, and wow, while most of the chambers are fine, 11-3 really tells you that the Abyss is becoming a hellscape unless you pull for the banner units. Such shilling of banner units I think we have never seen in floor 11 before. Add on top that it's a Natlan unit, and all the Night Soul BS follows behind that. It's not an impossible floor at all, but if you have been denying that the Abyss is becoming more and more annoying to guilt trip you into pulling for the banner characters, then if this isn't the thing to change your mind, then there is no hope for you, honestly. So overall, floor 11 is not looking good for the overall rating of this Abyss, even though I don't give out ratings. So, what the hell is gonna go on floor 12? Well, if this is floor 11. Well, it's a half and half situation, funnily enough. First of all, buffs time. Since shilling the banner units using enemies is not enough, we have on the first half a 75% damage on cryo skills, which Escoffier is the only user. Yeah, you can hit a nice melt Kaeya skill, I guess, and see lots of numbers, but it's not really going to matter, and that goes for every other cryo unit. It's only Escoffier that uses this buff, unless you run some weird Fremine cryo build. and it's just like the Furina one a few abysses back. And as for the second half, it's a 75% buff to Dendro skills, which actually has more users than 1.5. Yes, it's made for Kinich, but Al-Haytham, Emily, and Nahida all make great use of this buff, and I guess Tinari since he spams his weed bombs. So second half is looking nice for the buff, but as you will see, you won't be easily running these characters. Let's begin with 12-1, which is honestly the pain point of this abyss for a specific reason. The first half starts with, once again, the Eremite Crocodile Spirit Spawner, followed by 2 Fatui Anemo Operatives. An okay chamber, honestly. It's 12-1, so their HP is not maxed, and actually you can very easily juggle the operatives and make them take some insane fall damage. I tried out some DPS IFA here, and I was constantly making them take over 300,000 K plus in fall damage, which was very, very funny as Furina and IFA just juggled them continuously in the air. But overall, any team will clear them, even an Anemo DPS, since these are Anemo operatives, they have extra resistances. Any Anemo DPS with an appropriate Anemo Res Shredder will take care of this half really quickly. But it's the second half that really ruins this chamber, because it contains the Lava Dragon from Natlan. This boss completely blocks you from using Hydro and Cryo characters and locks you into using Pyro, since you need as much Pyro application as possible in order to advance through its stages and lower its resistances. But it's also a Lava Dragon, meaning that it has a ton of Pyro res, so they specifically want you to use Pyro supports, and last time I checked, we don't have really good Pyro appliers that aren't DPSs. It's because of Kinich, since Kinich runs Burning and he just needs a Toma or a Deisha for application and he completely shreds the boss. I tried a few comps here, and unless you have Sevrus, you won't be dealing with this boss using a Pyro DPS, since they usually want to vaporize or melt, and an Overload only team is only viable using her. And more so if you can grab some good Electro DPS and sub DPSs to overcome the Pyro res. I tried Arlecchino in a mono Pyro team, and with some really good struggling I could do it, but she also needed a very fast clear of the first half. I had a much better success though using Al-Haytham with a Toma and Official, really weird combo, but a bit of burning coupled with some overload procs, and Al-Haytham did manage to trigger spread as well. So if you have Al-Haytham and a well-built Toma on energy, you can deal with this boss quite well, and I I can suggest trying out John Sunfire with Bennett. I used them alongside my Xiao and Faruzan like I did in the event last version, which you can go check the video on the last version in order to see more on that comp that I used against the boss. And through John's C4, Xiao was able to deal basically full damage against the boss's C, since she shreds really a good amount of Anemo resistance. And yeah, even when it was not stunned, and I think I only stunned it once before it died to Xiao. I also have to mention that it does have a bit of a self-damaging mechanic, but it's not as helpful as let's say the Mountain King's one. Yeah, unfortunately, because of the block on Hydro and Cryo, so many teams simply cannot go against this boss unless you are a full whale to just ignore this mechanic. And it's a problem because, as we will see in the next chambers, it stops so many teams from being able to easily go through this chamber in order to counter the next ones. And speaking of those next ones, finally moving on to 12-2, we have an enemy and boss chamber in the first half. Thankfully, no Lector Seahorse bullshit, it's just some simple Fontaine mechas followed by the Perpetual Mechanical Array. So thanks to the simple enemies before this boss, this half is perfectly fine. Yes, the PMA has its summoning phase, but unlike the stupid Seahorse, it takes full damage throughout the fight, and when you stun it, it takes even more damage compared to the instantly getting up and not giving a fuck Seahorse. But once again, the second half is a major sour point because it contains 2 Abyss creatures. Big problema, because we have to roll back to what I said about 12-1, which is that these enemies here, guess what? A very good strategy against them is Electrocharged, but because of the Lava Dragon, you will have to go through an absolute slog of a gauntlet if you want to bring an Electrocharged team here. I did try to see just how bad an Electrocharged team would be against the Lava Dragon, so that I will be able to judge how difficult it would be to ignore your time on 12-1 as you are focusing on the later chambers, and it was hell. We are talking about a premium Neuvillette team with a C6 Furina, and it still took 4 minutes plus. It was an absolute slog just to absolutely delete the next chambers. Which is why I'm so annoyed at the Lava Dragon being in 12-1. It's not a difficult boss. or chamber in general, but the huge restriction onto entire elements plus the absolute need for pyro makes it so annoying to go through even if you have completed that chamber and are focusing on the other ones. Back to 12-2 though, once again they are shilling Kinich because of the Night Soul bullshit, and burning is also a very good strategy against these things. My weird Al-Haytham combo did also perfectly fine against them, so once again I will recommend a team like that one if you don't have Kinich. Don't know how good Overload is against these guys, but I would guess it's not that bad depending on the units that you choose that have good elemental application for Overload procs and lots of hits from their abilities. And finishing off the Abyss with 12-3, my goodness, it simply gets worse and worse, because the first half has a Ruin Grader followed by a Wayob. Now thankfully, thanks to the Ruin Grader, you should be able to grab lots of particles to charge your ults before the Wayob spawns, so throw them out before it eats up your energy. Also to mention is that this is an Electro Wayob, which only matters if you don't break its shield since it turns it into an Electro one. Before that, it's more of a true damage one. Still though, I hate Wayobs, and that's because the second half finishes off the Abyss with the upgraded version of the Abyss enemies with the Abyss Papilla. Yay! Everyone's favorite boss! It's the exact same as the Abyss enemies, only more annoying since if you don't fill up the bar at the beginning, it will two-shot you using its corruption mechanics. Yay! Same story though, it's a Kinich Seal boss where you can also bring your own version of Burning or struggle through 12-1 and bring Electro Charged. And that's floor 12 and the Abyss. Floor 11 seems to want to join the power creep and shilling allegations, and floor 12 goes hard on it, but mainly because of the giant roadblock that is the Lava Dragon. The first halves are pretty easy and the buff doesn't even matter, but all the second halves are so heavy on Kinich sealing, it makes them so annoying to deal with without using a burning team. And let me tell ya, with Skirk and some very interesting reruns coming in 5.7, the Abyss will not change for the better, but we will have to see. Shall we then move on to Imaginarium Theater? This round, oh my god, was horrendous to go through. The elemental combo this time was Hydro and Cryo because of Escoffier, and Geo because of Navia, and it made this Imaginarium Theater unbearable. Most, if not all, Cryo units and Hydro units want something more than just freeze in their team, so even if you pull the Escoffier, you get to use her for an awesome total of 2 rounds, and then your units deal no damage unless you're running Furina plus Nuvilette. And Geo, my goodness, unless it's Navia or Zilonen, they want full Geo teams usually, so they are also not having that much fun. As for the starting characters before checking bosses, it's a very mixed bag. We have Nuvilette running a fine build even though Sacrificial Jade has some drawbacks. Can these nuts fit in your mouth? Where I have no idea why she's here since Nuvilette is a catalyst user and no other starting character can use her infusion or even damage buff. Next is Ayaka in a pretty typical Blizzard build, followed by Charlotte in an insanely dumb build. Why the fuck did they give her damage stuff? Like, what the fuck? She's running Flowing Purity alongside Golden Troop? Why? She doesn't deal damage. Why in the ever-loving fuck is she running DPS stuff? She should be on at least an Oathsworn Eye that gives her attack and energy recharge, which are the only stats she wants, or at least Favonius. Why is she running DPS? And then Golden Troop, why? Just give her Noblesse so she can be a good support. Like, holy fuck, who thought of this? And lastly, for Geo, we have Albedo in a fully normal build with Cinnabar Spindle, and Kachina, where if she wasn't completely useless in general, would be fine since she's running a normal build with Cinder City. And now, as for the bosses, we have the Fontaine Local Legend mecha that is basically the experimental field generator, which is fine since it allows any character to plunge attack, so you don't necessarily need Geo. Followed by a weird Wayob that you would not know about if you didn't hunt the local legends in Natlan. It's the Wayob that summons another Wayob, and you need to constantly heal in order to heal the Wayob so that it can launch a big attack at the main Wayob. Any healer does fine, and Charlotte would be perfectly good if she wasn't running this dogshit build. For the main difficulty, your last boss is the Lecatus Golem, and here you will need as much Geo and blunt attacks as possible since you ain't freely plunge attacking. It's okay since the other bosses don't need Geo, so you can keep your units for this guy, so it's not that bad unless the other acts fuck you over, and in Visionary mode, You have the stupid Natlan boss automaton, so you better keep some good characters for it or say goodbye to that star. Why? Just why? We don't even have that many Natlan units to go against this thing. It's just Zilonen and Kachina, who doesn't even count with how useless she is, and Kitlali or Mualani, who is not gonna do well with only Cryo and Geo by her side. I don't even know if she can jump high enough to reach the pillars. So, fuck you, MiHoYo, for putting this boss here. Overall, this Imaginarium Theater sucked majorly, just to push Escoffier, and it was not fun in the slightest, especially in Visionary mode with a stupid boss at the end. And that's it. A super weak show from the Abyss and Imaginarium Theater this month, and things don't look to be getting better. But ladies and gentlemen, with it, we have something interesting coming up in 5.7. It seems we might be getting another combat mode that is permanent. What the fuck is going on in this last year? It's not looking that fun from leaks, honestly, as it is also banner units shilling to the max, and even whale baiting as well, but maybe it's not going to be that horrendous? I mean, the Imaginarium Theater has not improved at all since it came out, and it's a complete bore fest, so let's hope this new mode doesn't end up like that. We don't have right now any details on how the modes are going to rotate, if they're just gonna give us some extra primos through this mode, or fuck us over like they did with Imaginarium Theater, and now we have to wait so many days just for this shit to reset. So we will have to see how I am going to change or not the schedule of these videos, and maybe we will cover the first round of that mode in the version review rather than this type of video, but only time will tell. Thanks for watching, like the video if you liked it, sub to the channel to help it out, and I will see you in the version review, seeing as if I released as a complete flop. Goodbye.